Greetings. The last time we got together, we talked about how planning for your business is a lot like planning a vacation. What I'd like to talk about now is what are the 4 objectives of business planning? Well, the first and primary objective is it serves as a roadmap. Now, as you recall from the last video, we spent a lot of time talking about the analogy of the business plan serving as a roadmap and how it guides you from point A to point B without necessarily being carved in stone, but allowing you the flexibility to move from place to place and to adjust your plan as you go without locking you into a particular long-term agenda if the nature of the environment or your own plans seem to change. So let's move on to what the next objective of the business plan is, and that is to serve as a communication tool. Oftentimes I go into businesses, and maybe you even work in a business that's similar to this, where people seem to be standing around and trying to stay out of the way while other people are running around trying to put out whatever today's fire is. And I find that to be the case because there's not a clear form of communication. If by the end of the day you come home day after day after day exhausted, thinking about how hard you've worked and how hard everyone around you seems to work, and yet the business seems to go nowhere. Oftentimes that occurs because everyone's working for a slightly different perception of where they think their business is going. And that occurs because there's not clear communication within the company about what its goals are, what its visions are, what its strategies are. So everyone's just kind of doing their own thing, thinking they're doing the right thing, and oftentimes not moving the business in a positive direction. Another thought that comes to mind is this on the subject of communication. And that is that if you tell one person a story, you're probably going to leave out certain facts, not intentionally, but simply because they don't come to mind at the time. And then perhaps later that day, you tell a different person the same story, and unfortunately, because they don't come to your mind, you may end up telling a slightly different version of the story. So when these two people meet and talk about the story that you've told, they may have a very different impression of what it is you tried to communicate to them. What I think is having a written plan eliminates a great deal of that confusion, and it gives you a chance to read and reread and think about what it is you want to share with people in a way that is effective for them. The third objective of a business plan is to serve as a measuring tool. So if I can go back to my example of the objective of being a roadmap, let's say that you and I were going to drive to California, and we planned that it would take about 5 days to get there, and we decided what we were going to stop and see along the way and maybe who we were going to visit. And somewhere along that drive, we recognized that we were somewhere in the Midwest heading towards Florida. And so my thought would be, where would you want to know that you've made a wrong turn? Would you like to wait till you arrived in Florida? Or would you like to find out at the very next exit that you've gone the wrong way? Well, that's an obvious answer. You'd want to know the very first wrong exit you took so that you can take the corrective action necessary to get you back on the right path. Well, I have to tell you, I know some businesses, and I'm not just talking, little mom and pop businesses. I'm talking companies that do, several $1 million a year that only get their financial statements done at the end of the year. Now, if you only get your financial statements done at the end of the year, and suddenly you get them and you realize that, you're not where you want to be, the problem with that is you don't know when you went astray. You don't know whether it happened in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter. So it makes it virtually impossible to try to make any significant corrective action in time to stop whatever it is that's going on. The key to the measuring stick in your business plan is to give you a benchmark so that on a regular basis you can compare where you want to be with where you are. And so you can make whatever action you want to make to either enhance where you're going or to correct where you're going. And the last objective of the business plan is to serve as what I like to call a management tool, or a learning tool, if you will. The reality is no one can know everything. So I know that we know what we know, and there are some things that we don't know, but we know that we don't know them, and yet there's another set of things that we don't know that we don't know. I know that sounds kind of funny, and so I'll repeat it. There's things that we know we know. There are some things that we know that we don't know. But my concern for most business people is that there's a whole bunch of stuff that you don't know until it happens. The idea behind a strategic business plan is that you sit down and you take the time to map out where you want to go, how you want to get there, what the specific steps you're going to take to get there are. And in that process of digging into all the corners of your business, you're going to discover some things that you didn't know that you didn't know. And therefore, you can learn more about them or bring the right people on board that can fill those gaps for you. Those are the primary objectives. Now, the other thing about doing a business plan is this, that in the process of building a contingency plan, all those what-if scenarios, one of the objectives of building scenarios B, C, and D is it helps you make a better plan A. So remember, when you're on your business plan and your family vacation, remember its 4 objectives. It serves as a roadmap, it serves as a sound communication tool, an excellent measuring stick, and a wonderful opportunity to learn. If you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me. I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, take care and be well.